Hare Krishna. Welcome to the Sunday discussion on Bhagavad Gita. So we'll start with the prayers. We'll chant the Jai Radha Madhava prayers. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jayo Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Jayo Prahlad Narasimha, Jayo Prahlad Narasimha, Jayo Prahlad Narasimha. Jayo Jayo Prabhupada, 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 Jayo Jayo Prabhupada. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Shri Krishna Balaram ki, Shri Nitai Gauranga ki, Shri Srinivas Govinda ki, Shri Prahlad Narasimha Dev ki, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. So before we start, we'll chant the auspicious holy name of the Lord. So please repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Hare Krishna. So today we'll be discussing from the 7th chapter, text 25, and this chapter is known as the absolute knowledge. So Krishna is speaking about himself, and he's giving the absolute knowledge over here. And Krishna actually in the earlier verses he speaks about different kinds of people and different kinds of people how they worship him, and he's continuing to speak about the different ways people actually are different people in different situation, what is their level of understanding God. And here in this verse actually Krishna is saying something very unique about who can actually even understand him or even see him. So text 25, I'll recite the verse a few times and then we'll read the translation purport and discuss further. Naham prakasha sarvasya yoga maya samavritah mudoyam nabhijanati loko mam ajamavyayam. I'll recite the verse again. Naham prakasha sarvasya yoga maya samavritah mudoyam nabhijanati loko mam ajamavyayam. Synonyms: na, nor, aham, I, prakashaha, manifest, sarvasya, to everyone, yoga maya, internal potency, samavrataha, covered, mudaha, foolish, ayam, this, na, not, abhijanati, can understand, lokaha, such less intelligent persons, mam, me, ajam, unborn, avyayam, inexhaustible. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Abhay Charnaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation: I am never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them, I am covered by my eternal creative potency, Yogamaya. And so the deluded world knows me not, who am unborn and infallible. Purport: it may be argued that since Krishna was present on this earth and was visible to everyone, then why isn't he manifest to everyone now? But actually, he was not manifest to everyone. When Krishna was present, there were only a few people who could understand him to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the assembly of Kurus, when Shishupala spoke against Krishna being elected president of the assembly, Bhishma supported him and proclaimed him to be the Supreme God. Similarly, the Pandavas and few others knew that he was the Supreme, but not everyone. He was not revealed to the non devotees and the common man. Therefore, in the Gita, Krishna says that, but for his pure devotees, all men consider him to be like themselves. He was manifest only to his devotees as the reservoir of all pleasure. But to others, to unintelligent non devotees, he was covered by his eternal potency. In the prayers of Kunti in Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, 8th chapter, 18th verse, it is said that the Lord is covered by the curtain of Yoga Maya, and thus ordinary people cannot understand him. Kunti prays, O my Lord, you are the maintainer of the entire universe, and devotional service to you is the highest religious principle. Therefore, I pray that you will also maintain me. Your transcendental form is covered by the Yogamaya. The Brahmajyoti is the covering of the internal potency. May you kindly remove this glowing effulgence that impedes my seeing your Satchit Ananda Vigraha, your eternal form of bliss and knowledge. This Yogamaya curtain is also mentioned in the 15th chapter of the Gita. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, in his transcendental form of bliss and knowledge, is covered by the eternal potency of Brahmajyoti, and the less intelligent impersonalists cannot see the Supreme on this account. Also, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a prayer, there is this prayer by Brahma. O Supreme Personality of Godhead, O Super Soul, O Master of all mystery, who can calculate your potency and pastimes in this world? You are always expanding your eternal potency, and therefore no one can understand you. Learned scientists and learned scholars can examine the atomic constitution of the material world or even the planets, but still they are unable to calculate your energy and potency, although you are present before them. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, is not only unborn, but he is avyaya, inexhaustible. His eternal form is bliss and knowledge, and his energies are all inexhaustible. The sense of purport. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः. नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन्निति नामिने. नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे. जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौरभक्तवृंद. हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. Hare Krishna. So this verse, Naham Prakasha Sarvasya Yogamaya Samavratah Mudoyam Nabijanati Lokomam Ajam Avyayam. So Krishna is saying here, Naham Prakasha Sarvasya. Na aham means I am actually not. What is that? Naham Prakasha Sarvasya. Prakasha means visible. So Krishna is saying, I am not visible to everyone. So how is it? Yogamaya Samavrataha. Yogamaya. So Krishna's internal potency, Samavrataha, it actually covers. And whom does it cover? Mudoyam Navi Janati. Mudaha. Muda means the foolish. The foolish will not know him. Lokomam Ajam Avyayam. Even though of this entire creation, I am the infallible and unborn. I am the unborn. I'm not, I don't even belong to this material creation. I'm the source. Krishna is known as Adi Purusha. He's the source. And Avyayam, inexhaustible. So I'll read the translation again. Krishna is saying, I am never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them, I am covered by my eternal creative potency. And so the deluded world knows me not, who am unborn and infallible. So here Krishna is saying that to the foolish people and the unintelligent people, Krishna is actually not visible. He is covered. But then one would say, well, what about when Krishna actually appeared on this earth? Right? We all know Lord Krishna's pastimes. We all are aware of the holy land in India, the Vrindavan Dham, where the Lord appeared, the Dwarka, where the Lord performed his pastimes, right? And the Kurukshetra war, where the Lord participated, and that's where he spoke Bhagavad Gita. So the Lord, there are historical evidences of the Lord's, Lord Krishna's Bhagavad Gita that we're reading today. There are historical evidences of the Lord's presence on this earth 5,000 years ago. So how do we understand that he is not visible? So Prabhupada is clarifying in the purport, saying that even though when the Lord was present, not everyone knew that he was the Lord, isn't it? Even if one does not know that he is the Supreme Lord, they see him, what do they do? They think him as a normal person. Actually, Krishna himself says in the ninth chapter, what is the position of the, again, the fools, the foolish people? Even though they see Krishna, what is their situation? Krishna says, Avajananti mam mudaha manushim tanumashrita. Parambhavam majananto mama bhuta maheshwaram. So he's saying, even though I am physically present, I am visible. Avajananti mam mudaha. Avajananti means they don't know. They deride. They says, no, 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 that's not God. Mam, avajananti mam mudaha. The foolish people, they can't understand God. Why? Manushim tanumashrita. Because the Lord has appeared in the human form. He looks very much like a human being. Actually, the Lord's form is correct. Lord has two hands, two legs, everything that we see. Lord Krishna is playing the flute. That is actually his form. But what is important to know is that that is not a human form. What does it mean when we say human form? Here also Krishna is saying Manushim Tanumashrita, Manushya. The form, the visible form is correct. That is how Lord Krishna looks. But the form is not made of a material body. Manusham Tanum Ashrita. Tanum means body. In this material world, we all have material bodies. But Krishna does not accept a material body. What is a material body? A material body is nothing but made of matter. If you analyze our human body, it is purely matter. There is bones, blood, flesh, there is water, chemicals, chemical composition. And it is all very temporary. As a human being or a living being grows, the body metabolism is such that it will accept, it will take various nutrients from the food, and it will discard the unnecessary things, and it will build the bones, muscles, blood, and everything, right? So this is pure material body, and it is all pure matter, and it will all decompose and deteriorate. But Krishna, even though he looks very much like the human body, his body is not human. That means his body is not made of material. For example, one could have a wooden sculpture, and then there could be a metal sculpture, right? And they both could be painted, very similarly with the same color combination and everything, right? Outwardly, they look the same. And if all your ever is about, in that whole museum, they're all wooden sculptures, right? You will think, oh, even the metal one that has been painted exactly like the wooden, you will think this is also wood, right? But the composition is completely different. So the outwardly form, they look the same, but inwardly, inside, they're completely different, right? One is completely metal. It has no, characteristics like the wooden. The wooden one you can cut and it can burn and so many things can happen, but the metal is immune to those kind of things, right? A very crude example, but in the same way we have to understand that when Lord incarnates, when Lord appears, though he has a exact similar form like ours, but it is different in the sense his composition is not a material body. The Lord appears in his own spiritual body. Sambhavami Atma Mayaya. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells to Arjuna that his appearance, Atma Mayaya, Sambhavami, I appear. How? Atma Mayaya, I appear in my own spiritual body. What is our position, all other living beings in this material world? We also have spiritual bodies, but it is covered by the material body. And why is it covered by the material body? Because we have fallen into this material world. We were in the spiritual world. We had spiritual bodies, but then because of a desire to enjoy separate from Krishna, we wanted to experiment. How will it be if I was the center of attraction? How will it be if I want to be the Lord? How will it be if I want to be the master? So this material world is a creation by the Lord to give us all an opportunity. Okay, you can try it out in this material world. You will get a temporary material body, and you can experiment trying to become the center of attraction. You can become the center of the world. You can try to become the Lord and the master. And what happens when we come to the material world? We are among all other people who had a similar mentality, who also wanted to become the Lord, who also wanted to become the center of attraction, who had hesitated to continue their service to the Lord, and they had cultivated a desire to imitate the Lord. Just like if we a crude example is given, and actually in the Vedic literature, this material world is actually compared to a prison. Who enters a prison? A person who was an outlaw, who was not obedient to the state laws, who was not following the guidelines of the state government or the city, the country, right? And whom does he meet inside? He once he goes to prison, he will find all such people with a similar mentality. They were also not obedient to the state laws. They also went against the government rules and regulations, and they were caught and put in the prison as criminals. So when we come to this material world, we have actually fallen from the spiritual world into the material world. We have lost our original constitutional spiritual position. We were actually very blissful in the spiritual world, but we have lost it. Just like a good citizen has a complete freedom in the world to drive around, to visit places, to eat wherever he wants to, eat, to travel, everything, isn't it? But once he commits a crime, all his freedom is curbed and is put into a prison. He has lost everything. In the same way, in this material world, we have lost our spiritual happiness, we have lost our spiritual independence, and we have come for a so called material independence. Why? Same thing. We have become disobedient. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Icha dvesha samutyena sarve yanti parantapaha. Icha dvesha. There was a desire to imitate the Lord, and dvesha, there was an envy. There is an envy that I want to be the master. And that is why we ended up in this material world. Just like the prisoners in the prison, there was a desire to, make your own way of life, disobeying the government. And there was enviousness against the state laws. What is the state government? Why should I follow this? I will do whatever I want. And they were caught and put in prison because they only cause disturbance. So when the spiritual beings in the spiritual world get this desire to enjoy, to imitate the Lord, to actually be the position of center of attraction, to be the master, then Krishna actually sends us to the material world, because just like a citizen who has committed a crime, he can't be among the other citizens because he will only cause disturbance there. He has to set right himself. What is a prison called? It is called a correction facility. What is the purpose of prison? It is not just to punish, it is to give an opportunity for one to correct himself. He has cultivated a wrong mentality, and instead of completely denying existence for them, right? What is one opportunity? What is one option? You completely kill a criminal, right? I mean, if it is a very heinous crime, yes, they are killed sometimes. But if it's a small crime, what happens? They're put in prison and given a chance to correct themselves. And the prison term varies, isn't it? For some it is few months, few weeks. So based on how severe the crime is, the prison term is longer to help him correct himself. Because if one is very committed a very big crime, that means he has a very deep rooted misunderstanding of how the government works and how it is actually for his own good, right? So in the same way, we all come to this material world, and the purpose is to get corrected. So we're all in a correction facility. We have lost our independence and freedom and bliss and joy in the spiritual world, and we're in the material world. Just like a good citizen, when he commits a crime, he has lost all his opportunity to be independent, free, and happy, and is suffering in this prison. Why? To get him corrected. Now, if somebody is in the prison and he doesn't mend his ways, he doesn't get corrected, what happens? If he's not getting corrected, that means he will disobey the rules of the prison also. He'll disobey the superintendent of the prison. He will disobey the guidelines, the rules and regulations. And what happens? He becomes even more implicated. His prison term will get increased, right? If he is found a prisoner in the prison, he is found to be even more unruly and not following, following the rules and regulations, not being obedient. He will be tried again, and his prison term will be increased. So that is what is happening in this material world. We have all left Krishna, we have all left the spiritual world, and we are struggling here. And if we don't utilize this opportunity to correct ourselves, our prison term in this material world will only increase. And when one is in such a misunderstanding, He is known as a fool. That is what Krishna is saying. Avajananti mam muda manushim tanumashrita. So now these fools, they think that when Krishna has come or when Lord Rama has come, they think, oh, he is also one of us. He also has a material body. What big difference between him and me? It is like thinking if the president visits the prison to see the prisoners and give them a message and to encourage them to take advantage of the facilities and to correct their mentalities and to become good citizens again. Right? If the president enters the prison and if one of the prisoners says, "Oh, he is also a prisoner. He also has become, he's just one of us, right? We are all here. He is also inside today. Oh, he's also one of the prisoners." Right? If somebody thinks like that, what does it mean? He's a total fool, isn't it? The president of the country has come inside the prison. Yes, definitely, he is also in the prisoners are also in the prison, and the president is also in the prison. What does not mean the president has committed a crime and he is stuck in the prison for serving a term. He has come to encourage them and inspire them and to help them come out of their improper mentality. Only a fool will think, oh, now even president is a prisoner. Yeah, he is also one of us, right? That is exactly the same thing Krishna is saying. Avajananti mam muda manushim tanumashrita. Just because God looks very much like us and he thinks like if we start thinking he also has a human body, then that is nothing but foolishness. And what Krishna is saying next, Param Bhavam Ajananto Mama Bhuta Maheshwaram. They don't know Param Bhavam. They don't know my superior nature. What is a superior nature? Ours is a material body. Ours is material nature, made of blood, bone, muscles, chemical combination. But Krishna's is a spiritual nature, Param Bhavam. It is completely, Param means superior, totally superior. And Bhavam means the nature. Superior nature of Krishna's body is spiritual body. It does not deteriorate. Material body, it becomes old after some years, isn't it? A person is born, he's young, he's youth, then slowly he starts becoming old. What happens? Hair becomes gray, wrinkles on the skin, right? Becomes very old. The body becomes weak, bones become weak, muscles become weak, right? But that is not how Krishna's body is or God's body is. You will never hear any, in any Purana or any Leela or any discussion of the Lord where you will see he became old, he had gray hair, he had wrinkled skin, he finally ended up walking with a walking stick. No, Krishna is ever youthful. Nava Yavvanam cha, Krishna is described. And it was practically proved. Krishna in the Vedic literature and the Bhagavatam, it is described that though Krishna, actually by the time this Kurukshetra war was happening, Krishna had grandsons. He was close to 125 years or something, it was mentioned. But still he was looking like a 16-year-old youth. What about everybody else around? Dronacharya, Krupacharya, Bhishma, even Arjuna, Yudhishthira, they all became old, right? But Krishna was never becoming old. He was always like a 16-year-old youth. That itself is a practical evidence that his body is not like our body because he is in a spiritual body. The spiritual body never deteriorates. The material body deteriorates. Material body becomes old, diseased, and finally dies. And when Krishna leaves, nobody says Krishna died. He left. It's a disappearance day. Because Krishna had no material body, there's nothing to die. If we have a material body, the material body is what that dies. The soul actually never dies. The soul is called as Atma. Na hanyate hanyamane sharire. Tata dehantra prapti. Right? When somebody dies, what is it called? Oh, dehant ho gaya. What does that mean? It's a perfect Sanskrit word explaining exact phenomena that has occurred. Deha anta. The deha, only the body has ended, but Atma is sanatana, is nitya. So, Krishna's body is not a material body. And people who think Krishna's body is material body or who think Krishna is one of us, they're exactly the fools, exactly same as the prisoners who think, some of the prisoners who are totally foolish, they will think when the president comes in to visit them and speak to them, oh, he is also become a prisoner. So there is no better word to describe than a fool to such people. And in the same way, when Krishna is considered as one of a normal human being, again, it is nothing but fool. Why? Because Param Bhavam Ajananto. They don't know the superior nature of the Supreme Lord and his position also. What is his position? Krishna is saying, Mama Bhuta Maheshwaram. Mama means me, I. Bhuta Maheshwaram. Bhuta means everything that exists around us is the Maheshwaram. Ishwara means controller. Maheshwara means the supreme controller. So he is the supreme controller of everything. An exact crude, example can be used again with the president. He is the supreme controller of the whole country. And if a prisoner thinks, oh, he is as good as me, he's a prisoner, yeah, that is total foolishness, isn't it? So, and their position, that is what Krishna is saying here in this verse, that the fools, Naham Prakasha Sarvasya, Yogamaya Samamritaha, Mudoyam Nabijanati. Muda. Again, Krishna is using the word fool, rascal. They don't know me. Why? They're covered by his Yogamaya. So that is the position. So Krishna is saying that even though I am personally present, still, if one is a fool, he can't see me. It's as good as I am invisible. And from the historic evidence in the Mahabharata, we can see Prabhupada is giving an example that even when Lord Krishna was present, not many people knew that he was a supreme Lord. There were so many demons, there were so many kings. Even Kamsa, he tried to attack Krishna all the time. And here an example of Shishupala is given. There were very few people during Lord Krishna's total Leela. There were very few people who knew that he was a supreme personality of Godhead. And you can actually count. Prabhupada says that only Bhishma knew, and the Pandavas knew, and the Kunti Devi knew. There are very few people who knew it, that Krishna was the supreme Lord. Everyone else, they were thinking, oh, he's a great, very intelligent, some smart cowherd boy. He has very great skills. He has killed Kamsa. He's become a king. They just think like that. He's one of the smart intellectual person. Unfortunately, even today, a lot of people who give commentary on Bhagavad Gita, they also think that Krishna is one of a very smart, intelligent person. Or sometimes they think he's a self-realized person. He realized. And we also, if he becomes self-realized, we will become as good as Krishna. See, these are all, it's called the Mayavadi understanding. Very offending. They're offending the Supreme Lord. It is like saying, oh, he's a president, oh, he's wearing a black suit, whatever. If we also wear a black suit and tie, and we also become president. That is total foolishness. What is the qualification of God, and what is the qualification of an individual person? How can an individual being become God? If God is something one can become, then what is the meaning of God? The dictionary meaning of God is the supreme controller. So if there is a supreme controller, if anybody can become supreme controller, then what is the definition of God? God is controller, not supreme controllers. There is only one supreme controller. Right? There is only one God. There are not many. So there is no question of one becoming God. So unfortunately, a lot of commentators, they say, oh, one can become God, you also have to become self-realized. So this is all foolish. Various foolish. There were a lot of foolish people during Lord Krishna's presence, when he was physically present. And unfortunately, the set of foolish people continues to exist in this material world. Because we have to remember, this material world is a prison. Improper mentality people have cultivated. And that is why there are very many ways. From prisoners, you can't expect very good judgment, isn't it? If you go inside a prison and you bring some people together, okay, we have a problem, let us decide how to solve this. Can we expect any sane answers? Based on the criminality of individual person, they will say, okay, let's break that house and solve it, let's kill the person, or let's steal it. These are the only ideas one will get, isn't it? There has to be a good citizen who has to give them good understanding. So in this material world, all of us have corrupt mentalities, we have corrupt minds, we have disturbed consciousness. That is why a pure devotee or an acharya or the supreme lord himself, when they come, they can reveal the truth. From prisoners, you can't expect any good sane advice. But if a sane citizen, a well-educated person walks into the prison, who has been trained, properly in the government laws, and he can speak, he can say, this is how this particular problem should be solved. In the same way, Lord Krishna comes to this material world among all these materialists who are all actually prisoners, who are all having corrupted mentalities, who are all disturbed in their consciousness, and is giving the perfect knowledge. And that is what this Bhagavad Gita is all about. And that knowledge is not that Krishna has given and he has left, but he has created a disciplic succession, a parampara system, an unbroken chain of Guru Shishya Sampradaya, where this knowledge can be constantly given and propagated. And that is what where Swami Prabhupada, the author of Bhagavad Gita as it is, comes into picture. He's a pure devotee of the Lord, connected all the way to the Supreme Lord in a disciplic succession. And that is why when we hear from him, it is as good as hearing from Krishna. Why? Because the message is totally undistorted. If a confidential messenger of a person comes, he will present the message as it is. But if a non-confidential, messenger, he has just heard a rumor and he comes and he tells you something, chances are it is totally wrong. So that is why this knowledge has to be acquired from the pure devotees. Evam parampara praptam imam rajarshayo viduhu. So in this way, this knowledge has to be understood, and Krishna is revealing this knowledge. And part of the knowledge he is telling here that even though I am physically present, still people can't know me. Sometimes people say, "Can you show me God? Have you seen God?" Well, 5,000 years ago, God was personally walking on this earth. How many people have actually gotten benefit out of it? Not many, isn't it? We can literally count how many people knew. Like we are saying here, Bhishma knew, the Pandavas knew, Kunti Devi knew, Vidura knew. There are very few people who knew it actually. So, what is the use of seeing God if you don't know who God is? If you are in a foolish mindset, if you say, "Oh, show me the president," and the president walks into the prison, "Oh, he looks very much like me. What big deal? I think he is also a prisoner." Right? The knowledge is important. And this knowledge is only revealed to the devotees. And that is what Kunti Devi is praying here. Prabhupada is giving an example that she is praying, "Oh Lord, you are the maintainer of the entire universe, and devotional service to you is the highest religious principle. Therefore, I pray that you also maintain me, and your transcendental form is covered by the Yoga Maya." So Kunti Devi is acknowledging, "Oh Lord, though you're present here, you're the supreme, but actually you have a covering, which is a Yoga Maya. And with that covering, people can't know you. You will be invisible." So then she's praying, "May you kindly remove this glowing effulgence. May you please remove this covering, your Yogamaya, which actually makes you invisible to me, because of which not many people are even able to understand you. Please remove that Yogamaya curtain so that I can actually see you." So this is what Krishna is saying here, that if one is a fool, who is a fool? Fool is the one who is not taking an intellectual guidance from a superior authority. Any person, sorry to say, but one who has not accepted the guidance of a spiritual master who is connected to Lord Krishna, unfortunately, is a fool. And if he's taking guidance from somebody else, he says, "No, no, no, I will take guidance from this very rich person, or a very well accomplished person, or a very big intellectual person, or a very great philosopher." What is the use? If you take in a prison advice from other prisoners, what is the benefit? What good will he get from other prisoners? He has to take advice from a non prisoner, who is a good citizen, who is an obedient servant of the government. That is when he can be doubted. That is when he can come back to his original position. Right? So, in the same way, one who has not taken guidance of a spiritual master, one who has not taken to the correct path as guided by the spiritual master, will always remain a fool. Just like, children, if he is not sent to school, if he is not taking guidance from the school teachers or from the institution, he will always remain a fool. He will never know what is what. And if he says, "No, no, I have another group of friends who all of us don't go to school, I will take some advice from them." What good advice will he get? Isn't it? So in the same way, it is very important that we take the right guidance from the right person to actually solve the miseries of material existence. Krishna says, "Janma mrityu jara vyadi dukkha doshanu darshanam." One could question, what is the problem with this material life? Why so much big deal? It is like saying, what is the problem of a prison life? There are so many troubles, isn't it? In the prison, there is no freedom. There is so much hassle. They have to work so much. Our material life is like that. There are so many troubles, so many hassles. We go through birth, death, old age, disease. We go through so many anxieties every day and night. We have to be worried about our survival. Right? This world, by earlier biologists, has been described as struggle for existence. They say survival of the fittest. You have to make yourself really fit if you want to survive. You have to eat regularly, you have to maintain yourself, you have to have a good place, you have to have good shelter, you have to have good money. So many anxieties. You have to have good relationships. So many anxieties. You have to maintain your health. You'll become old, you'll become diseased. There is death, there is loss of so much. Today we are all, under this current pandemic situation, there is so much anxiety. People are looking for a vaccine. It's only a matter of time. What guarantee is that there won't be another COVID-20? What guarantee that there won't be many more? There are already many more. There are already many which people are suffering. So there is no end. It is, if you want to be happy here, it is like trying to make plans to be happy in a prison. No matter what, the prison is designed to give you trouble, to force you to think and correct yourself and to come out of the prison by becoming obedient. So our life should be utilized not to make our circumstances better. Not that, oh, I got vaccine, now I'm good. Not that I got some money, now I'm good. Not that I got a good job, I'm good. Not that I have a good health, I'm good. Everything is going to go away. Your good job will go away when you become old, you'll be retired. Your good health will go away when you become old. Nothing will remain. So we have to work towards going back to the spiritual world. That is how our spiritual master has coined this organization. There was a magazine that Prabhupada used to publish, which literally, you know, uh, exemplifies what this movement is all about, what spiritual life is all about. It is nothing but three words: back to Godhead. Godhead means the kingdom of God. So we have to go back to the kingdom of God. We have to go back to the spiritual world. But as Krishna is saying here, if we remain fools, we will never know God. We will never forget about going back to Him. Can we go to a place if we don't even know about the place? So Krishna here is saying, Naham prakasha sarvasya yogamaya samamritaha. I won't be visible. Then the question comes, then what do we need to do to become visible? As we discussed, we should take guidance of the spiritual master. And then what is the spiritual master guiding towards? Is it like whatever spiritual master, whatever he likes, he will tell? No. As we mentioned, the spiritual master is a transparent via media of the Supreme Lord's message. There will be no distortion. The exact same message that Krishna is giving to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita is the exact same message a spiritual master will give to his disciples to make the spiritual progress. And in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna exemplifies the path of devotion, Bhakti Yoga. Bhaktya mam abhijanati yaman yaschasmi tatvataha. So Krishna is saying, here he is saying, who won't know me? He's saying the fools won't know me, right? Avajananti mam muda, we said. But then Krishna is saying, well, who will actually know me then? He says, Bhaktya mam abhijanati. The Bhaktya, the devotees will actually know Krishna. So the guidance of the spiritual master will be the exact same thing. Krishna is saying, become my devotee. Manmana bhava mad bhakto majjaji mam namaskuru. Become my devotee. Always think of me. Sarvadharmam parityajya mamekam sharanam raja. Give up everything and surrender to me. It is a total surrender and devotion to the Supreme Lord, is what Krishna is saying 5,000 years ago in Bhagavad Gita. And that is the exact same thing a correct spiritual master will say and will do. And that is what Swami Prabhupada also says. Chant Hare Krishna, eat prasadam, surrender your life to Krishna. Give up all nonsensical material ambitions of becoming wealthy, rich, famous, this and that, because everything will anyway collapse at the end of this life. Take up a path which Krishna himself is saying and go back to Krishna. Mam upetya punarjanma na vidyate. Krishna is saying, if you come to me, you will not have a second life. Punarjanma na vidyate. Dukkhalayam ashashvatam napnuvanti. He says, you won't come back to this world, which is dukkha alayam, which is a place of dukkha, miseries. Ashashvatam, which is temporary place. Right? So here also Prabhupada is saying in the purport that the devotees can actually know him. Right? So by performing devotional service, one can know. Now in this Vedic literature, there is so much details of performing, taking advantage of the Vedic knowledge, so that one can become advanced, one can actually make progress in spiritual life is mentioned. So in the I will mention a small thing. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there is a discussion of Sanatan Goswami and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Lord Chaitanya, who is uh, Lord Krishna himself, who appeared 500 years ago, he is explaining to uh, Sanatan Goswami about uh, the process of the correct yoga, because the Vedic scriptures talks about so many yogas. So he gives an analogy of an astrologer who sees a poor wretched person. So an astrologer, he's going by and in a village, he will see a poor person, a very wretched person. So, but he knows him. He remembers he has actually done his chart. During earlier times, even now there is a culture when a child is born, they make an astrological chart. Right? Based on the chart, the astrologer can predict what is his destiny, what is he destined to, how much wealth he will be, how much happy he will be, how will his life be, and all those things. So this astrologer, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is explaining Sanatan Goswami, he's giving this example of the story. He says the astrologer comes across this very poor wretched person and is very surprised. He says, I know you, you know actually I remember reading your astrological chart. Why are you so poor? Based on your situation, I know that your father has left a great wealth for you, and you just need to find out that wealth. You won't have to remain in this poor poverty stricken condition anymore. Then the astrologer says, oh, is it? I also heard like that, but I don't know where is my father's treasure. Can you please help me to find the treasure? And then he says, yes, I will tell you, how to get to the treasure. This analogy of the story of astrologer and a poor person and trying to guide him, it is said that that is our exact situation, and that astrologer is the supreme lord or the spiritual master, and the guidance is actually the Vedic knowledge. Just like the astrologer will now guide the uh, poor person to get his real wealth and get his situation back, the Vedic knowledge will actually guide us. Now, this Vedic knowledge, there are so many details in the Vedic knowledge. Now, how should we go? Just like the astrologer says, yes, this treasure is in your property only. Right? Let's say the poor person is living in a house and there's a property. Says it is in your property only. Just like in the Vedic knowledge, it is there. But you have to be careful. He says that if you have to dig up to find it, right? Let's say the poor person, he has a yard, he's living in a small, and there's some property. He says you have to dig up the treasure. It is hidden in this property itself. But he says you have to be very careful. What is it? He says if you dig toward the southern side, the wasps and drones will rise and you will not get your treasure. What, you all know wasps and drones. Wasps are like, these biting insects. If they come out, they will bite you, and the wasp bite is said to be very painful. And if so many wasps bite you, you get all stung all over the body, and you will feel so much pain and suffering and forget about finding the wealth or treasure. He's cautioning him, be careful, don't go and don't dig in that area, because you will not get treasure, but you will be troubled by them. So Prabhupada explains, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains further, what is this digging south? See, the Vedic knowledge has so many portions. There is Karma Kanda, there is Gnana Kanda, there is Siddhi Yoga, and there is the Bhakti Yoga. So here Krishna is talking about, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is talking about the Karma Kanda. Karma Kanda means following the rituals and so many ritualistic processes for material benefits. There are so many rituals in the Vedas, Karma Kanda. If you do so and so puja, if you do so and so yagna, you'll become rich, you'll get a good wife, you'll get a good health, you will get a good business, or whatever, things like that. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is comparing those to wasps and drones. They will actually only bite you. Why? Why is it wrong to become wealthy or rich or famous, or having a good health, wealth, and all these things? Because they will increase your attachment to the material world. They won't actually free you from this prison. and you will get in more and more deeper trouble. Because if you increase your attachment, you become more materialistic. At the end of this life, you'll be forced to take one more birth to experience all the whatever pious karma or impious karma. So that is not a good deal. So he's saying, don't go south, you will only be bitten. So if you go the karma kanda route, by thinking, by getting carried away by some ritualistic process to become, wealthy, healthy, famous, and a good name and fame, it will only bite us in the end, because we won't attain our ultimate goal. Unfortunately, we will die at the end of this life, and we will be forced to take birth again, because that is what we've been focusing all our life on. So he says, don't go there. And then he says, but then, if you dig on the western side, right? If he has this poor person has a property east, west, north, south, he's saying if you dig on the western side, there is a ghost who will create a disturbance that your hands will not even touch the treasure. See, he's saying on the western side, if you dig, there is a ghost. What happens if a person becomes haunted by a ghost? He's completely disturbed, he's lost, he becomes like a mad person. Forget about getting treasure, he will be totally lost. Right? So, what is this ghost? So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains that this Gnana Kanda, this process of deep knowledge, speculation, and knowledge, and study the Vedas without the guidance of the spiritual master, so much mental speculation, so much acquiring knowledge, it will only make a person very puffed up, and he will like become as good as a mad person. There are a lot of people out there who study the Vedas, and they speak so much, so much, so much. They will speak from the Veda and Jnana and the Sankhya philosophy and the different elements of constitutional, position of this earth and the humans and life. So much they will talk, but there is no real, actual process by which they can go back to Godhead. So that is as good as being haunted by a ghost. They become so puffed up. They think they're very learned, and they get, sometimes they'll start thinking they're as good as God. So that is only total. One would get haunted by the ghost of the Granakanda. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu further says, well, okay, so south you can't go, no karma kanda, there is drones and wasps that will bite you. North, west you should not go, because you'll be haunted by the ghost of Gnana Kanda. Then what is the other side? Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, if you dig on the northern side, if you dig the north side, what happens? He says there is a big black snake that will devour you if you attempt to dig up the treasure. So he's saying, now if you go north, what is the situation? There is a big black snake, right? If you're looking for treasure and a very dangerous snake comes out when you're digging, you forget about getting treasure, you will even lose your life. So Chaitanya saying that snake will devour you. Now, what is this big black snake in this Vedic knowledge? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is comparing that it is the process of kaivalya, the siddhi yogas, the siddhis, or the brahmavadis, the people who perform yoga, they try to become one with God. That is called kaivalya. They think that is moksha. By attaining liberation, I do some yogic process, I do some meditation, and then I liberate myself. And they will think, I will merge into the supreme, I will become Brahman, I will become liberated. Actually, the problem with them is, that is kaivalya, it is like a spiritual suicide. What happens? They are willing to lose their individuality and merge into some Brahman effulgence, which is nothing but an outwardly bodily effulgence of the Lord. That means they are willing to lose all their features of individuality just to thinking that they will become one with God. That means they're annihilating themselves. They're committing a spiritual suicide. But actually, the soul will never die, it will never end. What happens is they are into a temporary situation thinking they have become God without a spiritual body or a material body, and they're just in that Brahma Jyoti thinking they have attained something, but actually they have even lost their you know opportunity to exist individually. So what happens here? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying it is like a black snake that will devour you, that will actually kill you. But because the soul has no death, it is said that people who enter the Brahma Jyoti, they think that they have attained liberation. Now they are, one with the Brahman, and they think they are as good as God. But actually, what happens is they lose all the opportunity to perform any activity. And it is said after a long time being there, they again fall down into the material world, because the nature of the soul is to perform activity and to relish loving relationships with, in association with other living beings, right? In the spiritual world also there are loving relationships. So because this person who takes up this path of Kaivalya and the Brahman liberation, they never entered the spiritual world. They will only stay in the Brahma Jyoti, in that light. They will fall down again to the material world. And again, they will have to take another birth. But during all this process, it is as good as they have lost their individuality. So that also Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying you should not take it. But then he says, however, if you dig up a small quantity of dirt on the eastern side, your hands will immediately touch the pot of treasure. So, what is this accessing in the eastern side of the property in the Vedic, knowledge? It is said that is the Bhakti Yoga. If you perform bhakti, see here it says, even if you dig up a small quantity of dirt, exact same thing Krishna says in second chapter. He says, Swalpamapi asya dharmasya trayato mahato bayat. Swalpamapi. Swalpa means very little. Same thing here is saying, if you take up a small, quantity of dirt. So even if you perform this devotional service, even in a very small way, and you start continuing it, you will actually immediately touch the pot of treasure. Even little devotional service, we actually get directly in touch with Krishna. When you do karma kanda, there is no touch with Krishna. When you do ritualistic process, when you do study so much Vedic knowledge and mental speculation, there is no touch of Krishna. When you perform some yogic process to go back to the Brahma Jyoti, there is no touch of Krishna. But if you take up bhakti, even once you chant Hare Krishna mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, immediately one has touched Krishna. Why? Kalikale Nama Rupa Krishna Avatar. The word Krishna itself is an incarnation of Krishna. When we say Krishna, Krishna is on our tongue. What a wonderful process. Immediately we can touch Krishna. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying, so that is the way you should go. So go east. And the moment you start, you will touch the pot of treasure. Right? What happens once we touch the pot of treasure? If it is stuck up in the soil, we have to keep digging more and more, isn't it? The more you dig, the more pot you will be able to access. You'll be touching it. You'll be feeling it. And the more and more completely when you dig it, you're touching it, you're seeing it. And when you have completely dug it up, you can completely remove the treasure out of the soil and you can utilize it. So that is how devotional service works. The moment we start touching Krishna. The more and more we dig on that side, the more and more bhakti we perform, the more and more we touch Krishna, the more, and finally, one fine day, we will actually revive our lost loving relationship with Krishna. We get the complete treasure. What is the complete treasure? Prema Pumarto Mahan, the love of God. That is the highest. What is the highest in the human life? Prema Pumarto. Pumsan means human. Pumsartha. There are 4 Purusharthas. Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, they say. But actually, the highest is not even any of these. It is Prema Pumarto Mahan. The Prema, the love of God is the highest. So when bhakti is performed, slowly, every step, one is getting more and more closer to Krishna. One is get more and more access to the treasure. And one completely perfects his devotional service, he gets the treasure, which is the love of God. So that is why Krishna also says, Bhaktya mam abhijanati yaman yaschashmi tattvataha. Here he's saying the Muda, the fools won't know me. But in the 9th chapter, he's saying, actually 18th chapter, Bhaktya mam abhijanati, the devotees will know me. Yaman yaschashmi tattvataha. They will know me completely. And what happens once they know me? Tato vam tattvato gnatva. By knowing me once, like this, vishate tad anantaram. They will enter into the spiritual world. Just like the poor person, once he gets a complete hold of the treasure, what happens? He can come out of his poor, wretched, poverty-stricken, hatched hut, and he can directly enter into a huge, big palace with his treasure of all the gold coins he has found, isn't it? In the same way, when we cultivate bhakti, when we get the ultimate treasure, we can enter into the spiritual world. Krishna says it is like the prisoner getting corrected in the correction facility. When he has totally corrected himself, becomes completely obedient, sometimes even before his term, they will release him. Yes, you are a perfect, suitable candidate to go back into the society and live free and happy with all the citizens. In the same way, when in the material world, we cultivate devotion and we perfect devotion and we attain the love of God, love of Krishna, we go back to the spiritual world. We don't belong to the material world anymore. We will get a spiritual body where there is no birth, death, old age, disease. There are no anxieties of pandemics. There are no anxieties of all other kind of problems. And we can completely, in a spiritual bliss, relish a loving relationship with the Lord and live there eternally. So that is the aim of life. And so I'll conclude here. I'd like to thank you all for participating and wish you all the best in continuing your devotional service wherever you are. Start chanting Hare Krishna, eat prasadam, read Bhagavad Gita, read Bhagavatam, do whatever service you can, and we can touch the pot of treasure more and more and attain more and more perfection. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Jai Srila Prabhupada.